Oops, that's me. Hi. Can you hear me? Okay, yeah, it's cool. Welcome, welcome. Um, so I have two streams actually planned for tonight, and the reason I put them on two different streams is because they're two totally different topics. So I just wanted to differentiate them video wise, and yeah. So the first one is going to be regarding the recent, obviously, the Trump rally with the um, recent assassination attempt. And then the second video, and it's going to be probably pretty short. So this video is like 30 minutes long we're watching. Hey, Harry. So hopefully this one will be kind of short. And then we'll get into the second video. But I wanted to cover this because, it's obviously some like really big news, pretty big event that happened. This video came out 13 hours ago, and I have watched it. I thought it did a pretty good rundown and covered basically everything, a lot of the main questions that people are asking, and things like that. So I just thought it would be good to go over live, talk about some current events and stuff. So that's what we're gonna start with. The channel is okay, I accidentally clicked on this notice or whatever underneath. Okay, so this is from Ward Carroll. I've never heard of this channel before. Army sniper analyzes the Trump assassination attempt. But I thought this was a pretty good video, breakdown wise. So, yeah. Let me turn on my desktop audio here.
Needs tactical on the ground weapons expertise. We turn to our friend Jack Murphy, former Army Ranger and sniper. Jack, it's great to see you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ward.
So let's start by just showing the event from just before the shots ring out until former President Trump is ushered into the hard car.
And that's a little bit old, that shot. That shot's a couple of months old. And if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
Hold. When you're ready, on you. Ready? Move. Up. Move. Go. Up. Hawkeye's here. Hawkeye's here. Move to stand. Get ready. You ready? Are we good? Shooters down. Are we good to move? We're clear. Let's move. We're clear. Come on.
Let me get my shoes.
I got you, sir.
Let me get my shoes, sir.
Hold on your head, bloody.
So we got to move to caution. Let me get my shoes. Okay, my shoes down. My shoes. Watch out. Wait.
Just real quick, I'm noticing like they should have better ways to get the president or former president or whatever important people like this off of these stages and into the car, because it looks like there's these like tiny little rickety stairs, and the podium was in the way, which that's not that big of a deal, but maybe they should have like the car like, you know, like right there so they can just go down from the stairs. Just like better planning as far as like exit strategy.
I said it first. You're like, hey, yo, bud,
Because
hey, yo, bud.
I don't know. Hold on, we'll keep going. You
It's
know,
chaos. Just
they-
look at how the focus of traditional TV and print sources has changed over the last few months. From felony
Okay, this is an ad, so I'm gonna skip past this.
You're also funny. You're a funny guy. You're adorable, is what you are.
out.
So this rally was organized, obviously, months ago. The advance team started to set it up on July 10th.
You know, my parents
And ironically, Pennsylvania Congressman Mike Kelly recommended to the Trump campaign staff that they hold the rally at a location that could handle a bigger crowd. But the campaign told them they'd already made up their minds to use the Butler Farm Show grounds. There were 4 separate counter sniper teams that were assigned to the event, 2 from the Secret Service and 2 from local law enforcement. And Jack, I don't know if that means Pennsylvania state troopers or
Right.
Butler Township Police, but it just indicates local law enforcement. Pennsylvania State Police were also involved in security. Butler Township Police were given traffic duties and other more routine assignments around the event. The FBI had no info about any particular threats going into this rally. Now, there have been some criticisms about the amount of security detail assigned to former President Trump, but the Secret Service had actually claimed to have increased Trump's security detail in the weeks prior because of some intel that indicated that Iran was plotting to assassinate the former president. The shooter has been identified as 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks of Bethel Park.
Look at this kid. He looks like a 20-year-old. They're gonna talk about it later in this video, but apparently this kid had been looking at, did I say 20-year-old? I meant to say he looks like a 12-year-old.
Jesus Christ.
I'm assuming this was his graduation picture. Or not graduation, but his high school, his senior. I don't know. Maybe not, because aren't senior pictures kind of like different? You're in your robe or something. I don't know. I barely remember high school, but apparently he was looking up. Okay, so before I say this, after this happened, and like I know it doesn't mean much, but it was kind of just my intuition that this kid didn't do this with political motives in mind, and my intuition, my guess is, and obviously I could be completely wrong, but I feel like right now my intuition is telling me that this kid, he was a local, he lived about an hour away, and it turns out they got his phone and he had been apparently looking up both Trump and Biden's schedules. And so I just think he is someone who obviously has severe mental health issues and has probably been considering some kind of domestic terrorist act or some kind of public violence, like a mass shooting or something, for a while. And when he saw Trump was going to be locally in town, he took his opportunity, so to speak, and went for it. So, and again, I could be completely wrong, but just when I heard about this, that was just my intuition based on what I heard about the kid and when I learned how close he lived and everything. I think he just, he was seeking attention, and he's angry at the world. He obviously is severely mentally ill, and just wanted to act out in any possible way. I don't think, like, it could be possible that he doesn't care about politics that much. I know he donated to $15 to a voter turnout thing, which was for a Democratic fund or whatever, and then he was registered Republican in the past 2 years. But I'm just saying, it's just a lot of people immediately after this jumped right into finger pointing, finger blaming, and pointing to Biden's rhetoric and Trump's rhetoric and stuff like that. And I don't think...
Oh shit.
I just don't think anyone else is to blame except for this kid himself, personally. But we'll continue.
Oh, that was Quaz. You see that?
Pennsylvania. Crooks was a recent graduate of the Community College of Allegheny County, and he worked in the kitchen of a local nursing home. High school classmates describe him as quiet and noted that he was teased by some other students for wearing camouflage to class every day, for what that's worth. He was a registered Republican who also made at least one small donation, $15 is what I'm hearing, to a Democratic cause, the Voter Turnout Project. He was also a member of a shooting club that has a 200-yard rifle range.
So it was a Democratic cause, the voter, I almost said shooter turnout, Jesus. Voter Turnout Project.
Now, the day of the shooting, he used his father's rifle, which is a DPMS Panther Arms AR-15 style rifle with a 16-inch barrel that uses 5.56 by 45 millimeter NATO rounds. The day prior, he purchased 50 rounds of that ammo at a local gun store. He also bought a 5-foot ladder on his way to the site. And after the fact, the FBI found an explosive device in the trunk of his car. Crooks was identified by Butler police on site as
That's
a suspicious
crazy.
person at the entry point a half hour before the shooting. Was also spotted.
Did he drive his car to the rally? He had to have, right? Well, he could have been planning on, having a bomb go off too. Maybe he wanted the bomb to go off and then shoot the president, or shoot the president and then have the bomb, or former president, and then have the bomb go off because, and again, they're going to bring it up later, but apparently he was marked as suspicious because he tried to get in, and then he saw some kind of metal detector or whatever, and then it kind of backed away, and the authorities thought his behavior was suspicious. So yeah, that just further solidifies my thought that I think I don't know if this was as politically motivated as people tend to think it is. I think this kid was just a shit starter and just needed some, he was looking for attention and just being a fucking piece of shit and wanted to hurt people. And he, we obviously know the intense political climate happening in our country right now. So I think he just took advantage of the fact that Trump was coming basically to his neighborhood an hour away.
By another local officer, quote, scoping out the roof, end quote, while carrying a rangefinder. Bystanders outside the event perimeter near the roof where Crooks was positioned spotted him and tried to alert Butler Township police. Here's what one of them, ID'd only as Greg, told the BBC.
So we're standing there, we're pointing at the guy crawling up the roof.
And he had a gun, right?
He had a rifle. We could clearly see him with a rifle. Absolutely. We're pointing at him. The police are down there running around on the ground. We're like, hey, man, there's a guy on the roof with a rifle. And the police are like, huh, what? Like they didn't know what was going on. We're like, hey, right here on the roof. We can see him from right here. We see him. He's crawling. And next thing you know, I'm thinking to myself, why is Trump still speaking? Why have they not pulled him off the stage? I'm standing there pointing at him for 2-3 minutes. Secret Service is looking at us from the top of the barn. I'm pointing at that roof.
So this is something I don't understand either. Why don't local law enforcement have some kind of even just backup communication or something with the Secret Service, or have communication with one person in the Secret Service who can relay it to everybody? That seems like one of the major flaws is there wasn't good enough communication between all the different agencies, law enforcement agencies involved in this.
Just standing there like this, and next thing you know, 5 shots ring out.
In addition to Greg's witness testimony, other details include a Butler Township police officer attempted to hoist another police officer onto the roof after they were alerted by the bystanders. And as he crested the roof line, Crooks saw him, and by the police officer's testimony, he said Crooks turned the rifle towards him. And so he ducked. And in the process, he lost his grip on the roof and fell about 8 feet to the ground. And at that point, Crooks immediately started opening fire on the dais and former President Trump. One shot grazed former President Trump's right ear. 3 other rally goers were hit in the stands. Corey Comparator, a volunteer firefighter, was hit in the head while attempting to shield his family and died instantly. James Copenhaver and David Dutch were critically injured but released from the hospital the next day in stable condition. Okay, so Jack, let's do a sort of coach's clicker breakdown of what we see as this event happens.
And you know, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old. And if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
Okay, so you hear the first 2 shots. He grabs his ear. Among the things that have been attributed to saving former President Trump's life was the fact he was referencing that chart on the Jumbotron. And so he wasn't facing the crowd where he would have given a square side of his head look to the shooter. He was looking over towards him.
And there's some debate I've heard about, was he shot with a bullet or did a bullet hit a teleprompter and a piece of glass hit him in the ear? And I don't know the answer to that, but I mean, when you watch that footage right there, you can see him clearly flinch. It was either the first or the second shot when he was hit.
I think if the bullet had hit a teleprompter,
you would have seen the shards.
Yeah, that wouldn't have been a subtle thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think you would have seen it and probably heard it too. Also, like, how far away is this teleprompter? I guess maybe it's like pretty close in front of him or something, but I mean, obviously you can't see it within this frame, which is pretty zoomed in. So yeah, it was probably the actual bullet grazing him, which is pretty wild. That it only caught his ear. But he got very lucky in this situation. That's wild.
Okay, so a total of 8 shots fired. Secret Service immediately on top of him.
Yeah, and so the shooter continues to fire. So the Secret Service does the right thing. Trump is obviously starting to, seek some cover, but that shooter is so amped up that he keeps letting off rounds after his target is no longer presenting itself and fires right into that crowd and kills one and injures a few others.
The bystanders who were injured and in one case killed were located, as we're looking at the stage, to the smaller bleachers to the left. So if you look at the orientation of everything, you have the main bleachers behind the dais and the podium that are the taller ones, and then there's these smaller bleachers on either side. And so the victims of the shooting were in the bleachers that are closer to where the shooter was on top of the building.
Yeah, which...
So I thought that was a really helpful breakdown too. So as you said, the bleachers on the far side of this picture, closer to the building where the shooter was in, is where the victims were hit. So they were like in front of the president, or the former president. They were in front of Trump. Which I just thought that was helpful because the whole time I was trying to figure out where the people were hit. I figured it was like directly behind him, but when you're watching the footage, you can't see anything. So.
Okay, yeah, I guess makes sense.
My first guess was that they were behind the line of fire.
But they were in front.
They were in front.
He may have been trying to readjust his aim to fire downwards because now Trump is down on the stage, and maybe that's why those people came into his sight picture.
Okay, so you hear that report.
Yep.
The tenor of it is different than what we were hearing from the AR-15. My guess, Jack, is what we heard just there is the single shot from the sniper that took out the shooter.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the case. That weapon that was fired was probably a 300 Win Mag. So, I mean, you're going to hear that. That's going to pop up on the audio.
And as you hear that shot, you hear a woman scream loudly.
Yeah.
So in the confusion, she probably assumed that was more shooting from the assailant.
So it's pretty quick. A 26-second reaction in order to take out the shooter. I mean, that's pretty good. My whole issue with this isn't so much the aftermath. Lots of people are complaining about how long it took them to get Trump off of stage and how they did it or whatever. I don't really have as much of an issue with all of that. My issue is how he got on the roof undetected in the first place, especially with the layout of this place, that being the closest roof, to the site, and it was only 150 to 200 meters away. You think that would be better protected. I don't think he should have been able to get on the roof in the first place at all. They should have people, first of all, they should have a drone up there in the sky, okay, above, for the 2-hour event or whatever. And they should have all the roofs constantly, all the buildings being watched.
So they got him down, and I don't know what the Secret Service's tactics, techniques, and procedures are. Like, is the protocol to form a human shield on the stage, or is it to usher him off the stage as quickly as possible? So to be honest, I'm not in a position to really critique and say, did they do this right or did they do it wrong? But in this case, they clearly jumped on top of him, forming a human shield. And I think we'll see in just a minute, it looks like the counter assault team guys get up on stage. The guys who are camoed up with long guns.
Move his bear. Hold. When you're ready, on you. Ready. Move. Move. Go.
Yeah, they're trying to move him, but they're having some trouble. Now is that because Trump was they had a hard time getting him on his feet, or is that because they themselves were dragging their feet? And again, I'm not totally able to say.
Shooters down.
Okay, so
they got the call.
You heard the order previous to this. The guy says, "Move, on you," and then there's the hesitation.
Yeah,
and then you hear the shooter is down, and at that point, I don't know if that's the operative statement to actually start moving him.
Right.
So we don't know how many
I
shooters
would
there
assume so.
at this point.
I would assume so, because that whole, that little platform in front of him where with the flag design, that's all I'm pretty sure bulletproof, and it's supposed to be like a shield in case something like this happens. The person can just duck behind that and kind of, Secret Service jumps in as they did and covers him, which they did that pretty quickly. And I would assume, and again, I have no expertise in this, so I could totally be wrong, but I would assume you kind of wait there before standing up and, just making any part of Trump vulnerable, and everybody else too. So get confirmation that the shooter is taken care of, and then, you never know if there is a second shooter. But, yeah, I don't know, though. That would be my guess, is what they were doing. They were waiting for confirmation to move.
Point. And so they're exercising an abundance of caution. Like you, I don't know what the procedure is specifically. My first impulse, again, having seen how swiftly previous assassination attempts got the president or whomever into the hard car. I'm thinking particularly of the Hinckley-Reagan assassination attempt, where it's just this one fluid motion with the first shot where they...
To be fair, I don't think that's a fair comparison. In this scenario, they're right next to the vehicle, right? They're not behind a stage. They have a wall behind them. They probably have a building behind them or whatever, and they're a couple feet away from the car. So I don't think that's a fair comparison to this scenario where you're on a stage, you have to walk off of it, walk down the stairs, and then the little walkway to the car. So I don't think that's a fair comparison, to be honest, but...
Get him into the car. This is a different circumstance, no doubt.
And they didn't even play the rest of that video.
It takes them a while, and it continues to take them a while.
Yep.
Let's move.
Okay, let's move. Lots of comms back and forth, lots of directive comms.
Let me get my shoes.
Okay, former President Trump says, "Let me get my shoes," as they're bringing him to his feet. So
his shoes must have came off when he ducked down or when the Secret Service tackled him to the ground, I'm guessing.
yeah, that's what he said. He said when they tackled him that his shoes, they knocked his shoes off. You can also notice that one of the SWAT guys moves from sort of where the shots came from, and now he's moved to the other side of the dais near the stairway there.
I got you, sir. I got you, sir.
Let me get my shoes.
Hold on, your head's bloody.
So we got to move to the bus.
Okay, so he says, "I got you, sir." He goes, "Let me get my shoes."
Could someone
We need to move you to the
else
car.
not get the shoes?
The podium is obviously in the way here.
Watch out.
Like, wait. So he does this defiant gesture.
See, and before we had this audio, that part, it bothered me because I was like, these Secret Service agents are using their bodies as human shields for you, and you're trying to get a photo op right now. But now that we have the audio, they were confirming shoot her down. So, I don't criticize him as much for that, and it was a pretty badass thing to do. But if it wasn't confirmed that the shooter was down and he was putting those Secret Service agents' lives at risk, I probably would have judged him a little bit for that. So a couple of people in chat think it's staged. Hey Jerry, welcome. The ear is common, you can fake it. It looks staged to me, just my opinion. And yeah, I have the same question as Jerry. Who do you guys think it would be staged by? And I'm not gonna lie, when I first saw this, I was like, wow, that's just so lucky to get hit by the ear. But if you really, I don't know, my opinion, when you really think about it, are they gonna seriously stage Trump getting shot in the ear? Do you know how close of a risk you're taking? How big of a risk you're taking by doing that? I just don't think they would. If it were staged, I think they would have shot and completely missed. It would have gone nowhere near Trump at all. I'm not opposing Republicans, but because of Trump in particular, I doubt him in every word. Yeah, my instinct when I saw the photo op and everything, I was like, it's a little fishy, but I don't think it was staged. I think he was just taking advantage of, the situation, which, to be fair, he was just shot at, so he has every right to do that. And again, especially since he knew that there was confirmation that the shooter was already taken out by that point. But you guys, it's fine to have, obviously everyone is, can have their own opinion and stuff, but I just don't think it's, healthy, maybe, right now to be, spreading conspiracy theories, and stuff like that, on one side, some people are saying it was staged, by Trump or people the Republicans or whatever. And then on the other side, people are saying Secret Service purposely let the guy on the roof to shoot at Trump because they wanted him dead. And I just don't think either of those things are true. And I don't think it's good to be spreading these ideas either, especially in this already heightened political tension, especially not until we have more information, but that's just where I'm at right now.
Uh,
It is different from an athlete raising their fist after being injured because your life is on the line, and all those Secret Service agents who are using their bodies as a human shield, their lives are on the line too. So, and again, I don't blame him as much now hearing the audio that there was confirmation the shooter was down, but you never know if there is a second shooter. And I just thought it was a little risky to, take those moments, those couple moments for a photo op while you have human shields surrounding you, and your own life. But
pretty kick ass, quite frankly.
I mean, he didn't let it slow him down. You got to give him that.
Yeah. The crowd is definitely reacting, very emotional. You can see they're shielding him. Again, the movement towards the hard car is not as fast as I've seen previously.
I mean, Trump's like an 80-something-year-old
And
man.
again, he stands up one more time, fist pump, and he's in the car. 2 sniper teams on a north and south roof of these barns. So the video that we have shows the northern team. And so this is at the moment of the shot.
Mm-hmm.
You can see he's already sighting into something, Jack.
Right.
He's got something, and so I don't know if he's getting word that, hey, there's a suspicious guy, so he and his partner seem to be sighting.
Yeah, they're both on glass looking at something.
Okay. He looks out, and then the shot happens. He flinches and he deflects the barrel. So he's at that point not in a position to take the shot. This is not the team that took the shot. The team that took the shot was the southern team. Here's what they look like. So, Jack, the northern team has got ball.
I'm going to go back to that image of the layout again. This. So the southern team and the northern team, law enforcement. I guess I don't know which. I don't know which way is north in this picture though. So if I'm going to assume the picture is facing north, then it looks like the further away team, counter sniper team, is the one that took the shot.
No, he wins.
Not the closer roof.
The little landslide.
Oh, yes. And you can tell from this picture, this would have been the closer roof, and these were the guys that didn't take the shot. So it was the further away team.
So, Jack, the northern team has got ball caps. You can see plainly on their plate carrier, police, Secret Service.
Yep.
Right. So ball caps. Again, what kind of rifle are they using?
This is I believe it's a 300 Win Mag that they're using.
What jumps out at me is how short the magazine is. So how many rounds do we think might be in that magazine?
Usually it's going to be a 5-round magazine, and that's what it looks like there in the picture.
Okay. What kind of bullets are in that rifle?
They're 300 Winchester Magnum rounds, which that's most likely what this is. I wasn't able to be 100% certain. But that's a big round that snipers use in the special operations community. It fires on a very flat trajectory. In this case, the ranges we're talking about are like no greater than 200 meters. So, I mean, that round would have came down on the shooter like a freight train.
And again, the guys who actually took the shot were these guys. So just note, these guys are wearing the floppy hats, not ball caps. Their camo is different. They don't have t-shirts on. They have, tactical shirts with long sleeves. I can't make out what is on the badge at that one guy's hip or any of their patches, but this could be a different outfit, one of the local,
Yeah.
by local, maybe state police, maybe Butler Township. I don't know if Butler Township has a counter sniper unit.
Yeah, I'd guess state level.
This is what I think is weird too. It's just like, how don't we know this information? How don't we know which team took the shot? How don't we know if it was the state police or I just think there should be more information. I mean, I understand they're doing an investigation still probably, but we already know we confirmed that the shooter's dead, so we know which counter sniper team on which roof took the shots. So where are they from? Are they state police?
You know, the badge being shown. I don't think these are Secret Service guys.
When this picture was taken, they're looking to the south. So to note, the snipers are responsible for 360 degrees of coverage. So between these two sniper teams on the roofs of these barns, they have to sort of.
And I will say, again, to the people in the chat, and, you know, if you're total conspiracy theorists, though, it doesn't really matter what information comes out or what anyone says because you can't trust anything, right? But they did recover the shooter's phone, and it was shown that in the weeks or days leading up to this event, probably weeks, I think they talk about it later in this video, so we'll see what they say. But he was looking up both Biden and Trump's schedules. But if you're, you know, if you want to go with the conspiracy theorist argument, you would say, oh, well, of course they would put that in his phone, you know, to make it look like he wasn't just targeting Trump or whatever. But again, I don't believe any of the conspiracy theories. I don't think this was staged, and I don't think the Secret Service allowed for the shooter to get on the roof and, you know, purposely allow the shooter to get those shots. I don't believe that, especially when there's bleachers lined up behind Trump, which I thought was interesting too, at first, but then I started looking at other political rallies and stuff, and there seems to often be this 360 setup, which I think is like kind of dangerous. You think like you would have the people in front of the speaker, the president or former president, first of all, just so they can get a better look, right? Just a better view. And then, yeah, to not have anybody behind them, because we've had 37 assassination attempts, some of them successful, in the history of our country. So this is not unfamiliar to us, if I may say.
Stay out of phase. And it reminds me of doing racetracks with another fighter on a cap station,
Right,
where somebody needs to be looking the opposite direction at all times. And that's sort of an old school, especially when you don't have AWACS coverage. So in this case, obviously the one guy with the big eyes is looking south. The other guy's on, I don't know whether he's on a phone or on some sort of a radio, looking to the north. I'm not sure when the picture was taken.
It looks like he has a laser rangefinder in his hand.
Okay, that too. Good call. So just note that these guys appear to be from a different unit than the Secret Service. Probably the same weapon, the Win Mag there, Jack.
Yeah, most likely.
And the reason that we believe it was the Southern team is, as you look at this orientation here, again, look at the American flag, two barns, north and south. The Northern team's direct line of fire was obstructed by that westernmost tree. And so the shot had to be taken by the Southern CS team. The other thing that strikes me, Jack, is there are a lot.
So that tree they're talking about, it's actually in the thumbnail of my thumbnail for this video. There's a center picture of that layout, and there's one tree that's like outlined, and that's the tree they're talking about. So so I guess, and again, it's not an excuse at all, because I just think these roofs should have been patrolled anyways, but like nonetheless, these roofs should have been, you know, monitored either with a drone or eyes or just anything, or just like a perimeter so people can't get on the roof or something. I don't know. But that tree, I guess, is something to take into consideration too, of why maybe people couldn't see him, because there was like an obstruction there too. Again, not an excuse, but just like to add a little perspective.
A lot of agents. And so I don't know if, again, you're saying we don't know the procedures, but maybe that's routine to just cover them always with bodies. But you can also see as they queue up to the stairway off of the stage, there's a bottleneck
Yeah.
and he gets hung up there. Also, the fact that he wanted to make that gesture, again, kick ass, but if there had been other shooters, he was exposed at that moment, that slowed them down.
He wants to get his shoes on. He wants to make a statement. And again, I'm not going to blame the victim in this case, but I mean, those things may have slowed down them a little bit. Now, on the other hand, it's the Secret Service's job to protect their principal. So it doesn't matter if the guy wants to get his shoes or he wants to make a statement. Like, your job is to protect this guy. And if the procedure is to get him off the stage as quickly as possible, then I mean, it's a presidential candidate in this case. I mean, if you have to manhandle the guy off the stage, I mean, they're going, right?
As a chain of events is happening, we used to ask ourselves, how would this read? Right? It's
Right.
like, let's do that flyby, or let's go fly over that lake where the boaters are. And then you go, how's this going to read? So to your point, had former President Trump been shot at the moment he raised his fist by a second shooter, the Secret Service would have been absolutely nailed for that. Right?
Of course.
So at some level, the person they're protecting doesn't get a vote for how rapidly, including we'll get your shoes to you later, and no signs of defiance under fire. Again, fully admitting that the optics of that were pretty amazing in terms of his defiance and the fist pumps and the USA chants. It just seems to take a long time from when they first gang tackle him until they get him into the hard car. And we'll see what the after action report yields with respect to that. The other thing to note is the Director of Homeland Security has asked for an independent review. So certainly all agencies involved will do their own internal review, but the overall review is going to be done by a third party, apparently, which is probably pretty smart. So analyzing some of the other tactical gear that's used by the units involved here, Jack, these guys, the one guy's the guy we see going on the stage back and forth, dressed in black.
The guys who are dressed in black and they're wearing those patches, they look like they're outfitted more similarly to that counter sniper team to the south that fired the shot. So I'm guessing they're the state SWAT team guys. And the dude in the background in the multicam is probably part of like the Secret Service counter assault team.
It looks like they're carrying either M16s or M4s.
Yeah, there's some AR-15 variant for sure.
Okay, and it looks like they have flash suppressors on the barrels.
Flash suppressors, tack lights. The guy in multicam has looks like it's a PEC 4 laser sight on there.
And then that same guy here, he is at the northern edge of the stage. You can see he's also carrying some sort of sidearm. What do we think that is?
Probably a Glock 19. It's definitely some sort of Glock. I don't know if it's the 9mm or 40 or what they're carrying right now.
So he's got a tactical helmet on with some sort of microphone and headphones. So he's in comms with somebody, which leads to a discussion about.
And you can see from that last picture how he looks pretty well like secure in that little like cave there, especially with the Secret Service covering him. So that's why, they might have not been super rushing him immediately off the stage, because that was probably the safest place for him to be until they got confirmation that the shooter was taken out.
He's in comms with somebody, which leads to a discussion about comms. So as we went through the TikTok here, it looks like as much as a half hour prior, Crooks was identified as a suspicious person, hanging around the magnetometer, acting weird. Another Butler Township police officer reported that he saw him scoping out the building he later was on top of with a rangefinder. That's pretty weird. And Butler Township claims that they relayed to the command post. We'll talk about the makeup of the command post in a second here. At least 10 minutes prior to the shots being fired, that there was a suspicious person wandering around, and several minutes prior, about the time that the Greg, the red-haired guy, claimed that they had pointed him out on top of the building, Butler Township police say they relayed that information to the command post.
To be fair, also the Greg guy with the red hair who said they spotted the shooter on the roof, the way he described it, it was only a couple moments before the shots actually were fired. So these people were seeing him. He was probably like maybe hidden a little bit and then crawled into position, and that's when he was spotted. And there was probably only a couple seconds, maybe a minute, maybe two at most, before the shots were fired, because as he said in the interview, how he was describing it, he was saying they were trying to point to him, to the police, and the police were like, he said they were running around, and then he was trying to get the police's attention, and then the shots started firing. So the way he described it sounds like he was spotted only a couple moments before the shots were fired, which is not a lot of time, especially if local law enforcement doesn't have direct communication with the Secret Service, which they don't. But the fact that there was suspicion being raised 20 to 30 minutes prior, that's where I have the issue. I don't have the issue with the way they got him off the stage, how they acted. I think the whole fluke is how he was able to get up on the roof, and the fact that they were aware of his suspicious behavior 20 to 30 minutes before this all happened. That's where I have questions.
Now, break. The command post, and this is what you and I can relate to, having done multi-unit, either bilateral ops or real-world ops, contingency, or in your case, war ops. So the communications lash up is the difference between success and failure, right? So in this case, the lead agency is the Secret Service. I've heard them described recently by a former Secret Service agent as the conductor of the orchestra at these things. And they very much, because of manpower and just because of the practical realities of these events, have to work with the locals. That means state troopers and local law enforcement. The question is, if the lowest node in the chain of command is flagging the threat, what happened that former President Trump wasn't ushered off the stage minutes before the shots rang out?
The timeline you're mentioning, that there were some suspicious reports 30 minutes out, 10 minutes out, and then, just a minute or two before, from that guy, Greg, that was interviewed, and other people there pointing out this dude on the roof. I mean, that's pretty bad. That's somebody, certainly in 30 or 10 minutes beforehand, there should have been some sort of law enforcement response, I would think. I mean, something went wrong there.
There has been a lot of criticism about the DEI, let's just call it makeup, of the Secret Service agents around Trump in this incident. So the analog for me is, this is just like female integration across the military. In your case, special ops, special forces. In my case, carrier aviation. The question is, in the course of creating a more diversified Secret Service agent force, were standards lowered? And what is the standard, right? That's the same question we ask when we're talking about BUDS, we're talking about Ranger School, we're talking about flight school, carrier qualifications. What is the standard? In the course of carrying out the diversity piece, was it lowered?
I don't even know what DEI means. I mean, before that, it was CRT, and there's all these like weird things. I don't know what the hell any of that really means.
I'm gonna say this before they get into that. And again, like I don't know this, but I have heard many times people joking about this, people who have worked with Trump, and he tends to hire very young, pretty women around him who necessarily don't have the job qualifications, but they're pretty women, and he likes having pretty women around him. So would that go as far to his Secret Service, agents? I don't know that, but there were 3 women, which I don't have a problem. I don't think they did any less worse of a job than any of the men did. Obviously, just by their size, they can't cover as much space, but to be fair, like they will cover better the lower portion, and the one, they keep blaming the one woman because she was in in the very front, and from where the camera was, it looked like, you know, it just showed her like in the front. But where the shots came out, like the men were behind, and Trump was like trying to stick his neck out physically anyways. So I really don't think the women did, I don't know, besides like literal spatial coverage, which of course is important. It seemed like they did their job just as much as the men were doing. So if you want to say women shouldn't be used as human shields because they're smaller, you know, you can make that point. I think that's like a fair point, but I don't know. I don't see this. I don't see how they were any worse than the men were, but which lady though? And like compared to the men, how was she any more incompetent? Like the whole thing was clumsy. So
But yeah, I mean, different federal agencies and the military have put a focus in some ways on diversity and reaching out to different demographics. And I mean, okay, so the Secret Service hires women. So what? Like, why am I supposed to be excited about this? Okay, the girl, had trouble getting her weapon back into her holster. Are we also in tandem going to have a conversation about the many, many male Secret Service agents who have utterly fucked up and caused international incidents? I mean, that's a thing, and you can't really blame that on DEI, right? So I mean, if standards are lowered, that's a real problem that needs to be addressed and fixed. I don't know that that's the case, but I don't know. These female agents, they were out there acting as human shields, not me. So I mean, I'll give some credit where it's due. I think that with a lot of people who are making criticisms, it's more about aesthetics than anything for them. That they want these like big jacked white guys with tattoos and look like badasses off of the recruiting commercial. But I mean, that's not what the future of our force is going to look like. I mean, it's going to have guys who are 5 foot tall, Mexican Americans, women, all sorts of different people are going to be in the force and already are.
For my own part, I've been smoked on enough PRTs by people whose physical appearance I judged at the starting line.
Yeah, true.
To not do that. And again, to my eye, it looks like they were executing their duties as assigned. We'll find out along the way where the missteps may or may not have occurred. So let's give a little historical context.
exactly. I think until we start learning more about what the actual protocol is, and, I don't have much hope that we will learn that, because if I know anything about law enforcement agencies, admitting to fault is definitely not one of their strong suits, or not something that they're known to do is admit when they fuck up, and kind of own that. So if we'll ever know what they were supposed to do and what they didn't do, I don't know. But again, my issue isn't so much with the aftermath. I don't, it did look a little sloppy. There were some flukes with Trump, trying to get his shoes. Did they not get him up fast enough, or were they supposed to be waiting until, the shooter was confirmed dead? We don't know that. But my whole issue is why he got on the roof in the first place, and why he was able to be up there for so long, why he was already pointed out as suspicious and nothing was done. He wasn't watched further after that. Hold on, my cat is fucking eating styrofoam. Stop it! You can't eat fucking styrofoam. Jesus. No. Okay, sorry. What the fuck?
Jesus Christ.
Dude, how are you doing that? Jesus. Okay, sorry. She she's been doing I just moved. Many of you know I just moved into a new apartment, so we have a lot of like boxes, and Amazon Prime Day was like 2 days ago, so we just got some like orders in, and oh, I got my new computer chair. So I can't leave styrofoam out because she'll just fucking start eating it. She's crazy. Anyways, back to the video.
Context to assassinations and assassination attempts in American history. So 4 presidents have been assassinated: Abraham Lincoln, James Garfield, William McKinley, and John F. Kennedy. Now, besides former President Trump, 2 have been wounded: Theodore Roosevelt and Ronald Reagan. And we've talked a few times in this episode about the Reagan assassination attempt. It's worth noting that when he got shoved into the car, they were first going to the White House, and by he I mean President Reagan. They were going to the White House, which was only a few blocks away from the Hilton there in Northwest DC. The agent was body checking him, and the president was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Sir, I'm checking you to see if you got hit." And in fact, he had been hit under the armpit. And so they redirected the car from going to the White House to going to the hospital, which in fact saved President Reagan's life.
For like 45 years, the Secret Service has not had one of these happen. So, I mean, they are doing their job. But yeah, again, this is still a failure that needs to be addressed. No doubt about it.
We'll watch that.
And
we'll watch a little bit of that,
commented
Jerry.
About, in spite of the fact that he may have been exposed to, another shooter, in the event this had been a multiple shooter situation, the gesture was pretty kick-ass. And the previous kick-ass gesture was
This
Theodore
is
Roosevelt.
crazy.
He was shot at point-blank range by a bullet fired by a guy named John Schrank. The guy used a .38 caliber Colt pistol, and the bullet was stopped by 50 pages of his speech folded up and his glass case in his breast pocket. He was still bleeding, but it wasn't a mortal wound because of that stuff in his pocket. So because Teddy Roosevelt was a war vet, Rough Riders,
That's
tough guy, man's man, he was like, okay, I'm not coughing blood, so it's not a serious wound. So he actually
he was shot. Oh, okay.
continued his speech for another 84 minutes after having been shot. So
He was shot point blank. His fucking thick ass speech papers folded up in his pocket saved his life, and he continued his speech for another hour and 25 minutes. That's fucking crazy.
the other thing that's in the world of irony, that assassination attempt occurred in Milwaukee, which is, as we're having this conversation, the site of the RNC going on right now. So there you go. There have been 37 assassination attempts on presidents and presidential candidates in American history, including 2 others on then President Trump in September and November of 2017. So again, just for some context, it's kind of like we've always been like capable of this, right? So just this isn't a novelty necessarily, as shocking as it is. This is,
which is why we should be way more prepared than we were. Is somebody spamming the chat? I can't see it. I don't know why. I noticed sometimes I go back to watch my live streams and comments come through. Oh, I see. Let me see. Okay. Comments will come through that I didn't see during the actual live, and I see them in the chat replay. So maybe it's because I had top chat and not live chat selected. So, because when I changed to live chat, then I saw the spam messages. Yeah, so you guys cannot repeat like the same thing in the chat, obviously, over and over and over again.
sort of something that's been in the American landscape for a long time. And as we talk about all of those, the question is there any common thread with these assailants? And the answer to that is not really, except they're willing to kill another human being. But otherwise, it's, former actors, business owners, Lee Harvey Oswald,
Right.
they're all kind of unique in their profiles, but there's not really a common thread that we can sort of use to maybe prevent this in the future. And that's obviously a big problem for law enforcement.
Yeah, and with this shooter, I mean, there's always a
But yeah, the reason because we have a long history of presidential assassination attempts and some successes, why wouldn't we be much more prepared? Simple. Just get a fucking drone. Just have a drone in the air. Like,
rush whenever there's a shooting, a mass shooting, something that catches the public's attention, to uncover what that guy's ideology was so we can place political blame on this side or that side. It's really kind of silly the way we rush to do that. But
I agree.
sometimes these shooters are just mentally ill, and they don't represent any cohesive political ideology that you or I would be able to recognize. And I don't know if that's going to turn out to be the case here or not, but I mean, to your point, like, how do you protect against crazy? You know, it's not so easy.
Well, this is the challenge of a free and open society, right?
Yeah.
People have rights. You're allowed to do weird things. We have Second Amendment rights. There's no crime for being a member of a gun club. It's not illegal to wear camo to school every day.
Right.
Or play video games that are violent. You know, any one of those elements by themselves is not enough to arrest someone.
Right.
By the way, violent video games have no connection to actual violence in real life. There have been multiple studies on this, and there is no linkage there. That's something that people say all the time.
And take preemptive action. And that's always the Monday morning quarterbacking of.
I will say, though, I do think maybe for, like, I don't know, like, for especially young kids, not that it would be like a linkage to them being violent, like actually violent in real life, but I don't know if that could be the most healthy to be exposed to super violent things on the internet at very young ages. In fact, I know it's not. I mean, video games are a little different, but yeah.
Of these events, it's like, well, we should have known. This is true with school shootings, any mass
domestic terrorism
things. Yes, apparently President Biden did call the widow of Corey Comparator, and I'm hearing that she refused to.
I timed somebody out because they were spamming the chat with the same message like 5 times in a row.
Take the call because her husband would not have wanted her to, and that just is what it is. He did ask
domestic
of these events. It's like, well, we should have known. This is true with school shootings, any mass
domestic terrorism
things. Yes, apparently President Biden did call the widow of Corey Comparator, and I'm hearing that she refused to take the call because her husband would not have wanted her to, and that just is what it is. He was a very ardent Trump supporter, and apparently former President Trump did not attempt to reach out to the family at this point, at the point that we're having this conversation. In terms of what else is going to be done, there are other candidates like RFK Jr. Obviously, the Kennedy name is synonymous with assassination. So are they going to plus up his Secret Service detail? You saw night one of the convention in Milwaukee, the RNC, that when President Trump showed up, he was literally lined elbow to elbow with Secret Service protection.
Yes.
You know, it's a tough job. That's the other thing to remember as we're talking about the makeup of the Secret Service. That is not an easy gig.
Yeah.
You know, it's life as a gypsy, always on the road. And you can imagine.
And again, the whole photo ops thing, like, he wasn't wearing. They talk about that already. Did I miss it? Of him on the golf course. Maybe they were about to talk about it. Well, they showed a picture of him on the golf course, and then at the RNC, he had the ear getup. He's wearing it again now, but he wasn't wearing it on the golf course. And again, like, I do think Trump takes advantage of those optics a lot. But I don't know, like,
Monday morning quarterbacking of these events.
I
It's
don't
like,
really
well,
care.
we should have known. This is true with school shootings.
I just think it. I don't know. I think it kind of says a little bit about his character, but he was just shot at. He was almost just killed. You know what? He can do what he wants. I just think like everybody knows that, so
Mask
Domestic
just playing it
terrorism.
up a little bit, I
Yes.
guess. but-
Apparently, President Biden did call the Whitwood Porter Jr. of service detail. You saw night one of the convention in Milwaukee, the RNC, that when President Trump showed up, he was literally lined elbow to elbow with Secret Service
That's
protection.
not
Yes.
elbow to elbow.
It's a tough job. That's the other thing to remember as we're talking about
I mean, I guess.
the makeup of the
maybe
Secret
like
Service.
arm
That is
span to
not an
arm
easy gig.
span.
Yeah.
You know, it's life as a gypsy, always on the road. And you can imagine, in terms of the entry right now, the makeup of each team, the addition. So if you thought you were going on vacation to the Outer Banks this week, guess what? All leave is canceled. Everybody muster on station, and we're going to, reconfigure all of these teams. So Jack,
Yeah, absolutely, man. Stay in touch.
All right, so that was that. Let's just watch a little bit of this, what Trump is saying. I'm going to rewind it back slightly.
Than ever. I am more determined than ever, and so are you.
And it led to a stable world.
Friends, delegates, and fellow citizens,
This is live right now. I'm about 15 minutes behind where it's actually live, but let's just see what's going on.
stand before you this evening with a message of confidence, strength, and hope. 4 months from now, we will have an incredible victory, and we will begin the 4 greatest years in the history of our country. Together, we will launch a new era of safety, prosperity, and freedom for citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. The discord and division in our society must be healed. We must heal it quickly. As Americans, we are bound together by a single fate and a shared destiny. We rise together or we fall apart. I am running to be president for all of America, not half of America, because there is no victory in winning for half of America. So tonight, with faith and devotion, I proudly accept your nomination for President of the United States. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And we will do it right. We're going to do it right. Let me begin this evening by expressing my gratitude to the American people for your outpouring of love and support following the assassination attempt at my rally on Saturday. As you already know, the assassin's bullet came within a quarter of an inch of taking my life. So many people have asked me, what happened? Tell us what happened, please. And therefore, I will tell you exactly what happened, and you'll never hear it from me a second time because it's actually too painful to tell. It was a warm, beautiful day in the early evening in Butler Township in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Music was loudly playing, and the campaign was doing really well. I went to the stage, and the crowd was cheering wildly. Everybody was happy. I began speaking very strongly, powerfully, and happily because I was discussing the great job my administration did on immigration at the southern border. We were very proud of it. Behind me and to the right was a large screen that was displaying a chart of border crossings under my leadership. The numbers were absolutely amazing. In order to see the chart, I started to, like this, turn to my right and was ready to begin a little bit further turn, which I'm very lucky I didn't do, when I heard a loud whizzing sound and felt something hit me really, really hard on my right ear. I said to myself, wow, what was that? it can only be a bullet, and moved my right hand to my ear, brought it down. My hand was covered with blood, just absolutely blood all over the place. I immediately knew it was very serious, that we were under attack, and in one movement proceeded to drop to the ground. Bullets were continuing to fly.
So yeah, I think he sounds sincere here. Like I do. I think he sounds actually sincere here.
As very brave Secret Service agents rushed to the stage, and they really did. They rushed to the stage.
I'm glad he mentioned that too. I'm very glad he is giving props to the Secret Service, because a lot of his supporters are doubting them right now. And, you know, it's rightfully so to ask questions and stuff. But I do think a lot of the Secret Service agents that jumped on him have been treated a bit unfairly. It's fine to ask questions, but again, my issue is just the whole how he got on the roof. I don't think the aftermath. I think they did a decent job afterwards. And yeah, Jerry, of course he's gonna be shooken up. He was just almost killed, like literally by within an inch. He was almost killed. So I would, you know. He
These are
should
great
be
people
shooken up.
at great risk, I will tell you, and pounced on top of me so that I would be protected. There was blood pouring everywhere, and yet, in a certain way, I felt very safe because I had God on my side. I felt that. The amazing thing is that prior to the shot, if I had not moved my head at that very last instant, the assassin's bullet would have perfectly hit its mark, and I would not be here tonight. We would not be together. The most incredible aspect of what took place on that terrible evening in the fading sun was actually seen later. In almost all cases, as you probably know, and when even a single bullet is fired, just a single bullet, and we had many bullets that were being fired, crowds run for the exits or stampede, but not in this case. It's very unusual. This massive crowd of tens of thousands of people stood by and didn't move an inch. In fact, many of them bravely but automatically stood up looking for where the sniper would be. They knew immediately it was a sniper. And then began pointing at him. You can see that if you look at the group behind me. That was just a small group compared to what was in front. Nobody ran, and by not stampeding, many lives were saved. But that isn't the reason that they didn't move. The reason is that they knew I was in very serious trouble. They saw it. They saw me go down. They saw the blood and thought, actually most did, that I was dead. They knew it was a shot to the head. They saw the blood. And there's an interesting statistic. The ears are the bloodiest part. If something happens with the ears, they bleed more than any other part of the body. For whatever reason, the doctors told me that. And I said, why is there so much blood? He said, it's the ears. They bleed more. So we learned something, but this beautiful crowd, they didn't want to leave me. They knew I was in trouble. They didn't want to leave me. And you can see that love written all over their faces. Incredible people. They're incredible people. Bullets were flying over us, yet I felt serene. But now the Secret Service agents were putting themselves in peril. They were in very dangerous territory. Bullets were flying right over them, missing them by a very small amount of inches. And then it all stopped. Our Secret Service sniper, from a much greater distance and with only one bullet used, took the assassin's life, took him out. I'm not supposed to be here tonight. Not supposed to be here.
Within 26 seconds too, and I saw fucking Andrew Tate give his little take on it, and he thinks this was all staged. He thinks this was staged by the Secret Service to take out Trump. Him and his brother said that they believe they found this kid. They told him, they lied to him and said that they weren't going to take his life afterwards. And that's why he was allowed to get on the roof and have his shot at Trump. He was supposed to kill the president, or maybe not even kill the president. I don't know if they believe if he missed on purpose or it was by accident, but this is what they believe. And then the Secret Service killed him, and they didn't tell him that they were going to kill him after this, but that's what they did because they're liars. And I just think shit like that is just so crazy and unhelpful in times like this. Like, we don't need any more crazy conspiracy theories and doubt in times like this. It's not helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't watch much longer of this.
But I'm not. And I'll tell you, I stand before you in this arena only by the grace of Almighty God. Moment probably was when I rose surrounded by Secret Service. The crowd was confused because they thought I was dead, and there was great, great sorrow. I could see that on their faces as I looked out. They didn't know I was looking out. They thought it was over. But I could see it. I wanted to do something to let them know I was okay. I raised my right arm, looked at the thousands and thousands of people that were breathlessly waiting, and started shouting, "Fight, fight, fight." Thank you. Once my clenched fist went up, and it was high into the air, you've all seen that, the crowd realized I was okay and roared with pride for our country like no crowd I have ever heard before. Never heard anything like it. For the rest of my life, I will be grateful for the love shown by that giant audience of patriots that stood bravely on that fateful evening in Pennsylvania. Tragically, the shooter claimed the life of one of our fellow Americans, Corey, comparator, unbelievable person, everybody tells me. Unbelievable. And seriously wounded, two other great warriors, spoke to them today, David Dutch and James Copenhaver, two great people. I also spoke to all three families of these tremendous people. Our love and prayers are with them, and always will be. We're never going to forget them. They came for a great rally. They were serious Trumpsters, I want to tell you. They were serious Trumpsters, and still are. But Corey, unfortunately, we have to use the past tense. He was incredible. He was a highly respected former fire chief, respected by everybody. Was accompanied by his wife, Helen, incredible woman. I spoke to her today, devastated, and two precious daughters. He lost his life selflessly acting as a human shield to protect them from flying bullets. He went right over the top of them and was hit. What a fine man he was. I want to thank the fire department and the family for sending his helmet, his outfit, and it was just something, and they're going to do something very special when they get it. But we did something which cannot match what happened, not even close. But I am very proud to say that over the past few days, we've raised $6.3 million for the families of David, James, and Corey, including from a friend of mine just called up. He sent me a check right here. I just got it. $1 million. From Dan Newland. Thank you, Dan. But they're going to be okay. They're going to be doing very well. And just prior to COVID coming in, did a great job.
Okay, now he's doing his little spiel. Okay, so there's that. No, I think it's fair. Like, I think the U.S. government does some super shady shit. But I think it's totally rational to be skeptical of authority. But yes, I completely agree, Harry. I just think we need a little bit more evidence to support these conspiracy theories before we start firmly like giving weight, like credible weight to them. And just especially in like the aftermath of something like this, I just don't think it's helpful. But it's totally fair to be skeptical. I'm totally skeptical of government authorities and government agencies and stuff like that. I think they do incredibly shady and borderline, if not full out evil shit sometimes. So I don't blame people for questioning, of course. Yeah, so I don't want to talk about politics all night though. So I do have a second video planned, which I'm going to get into now. It's going to be in a different live stream. So I'm going to end this live and I'm going to come back in a minute or two with the new live stream, and we're going to talk about a little bit more lighthearted stuff if you guys want to or have time to stick around. So I'm going to end this, and then my other stream will be up in a minute or two. So if you guys have to go, have a good night. But yeah, I will be right back. So thank you, and remember to like the stream and all of that. But I'll be right back. It'll just be in a different video. I just wanted to separate them because they're about two completely separate topics. So goodbye. I'll be right back.